Was no music? Or is that done? There it goes. Hey! I remember our first day at work. Why are we lowering it? Get it up. Let it chime on in. Is it low? There we are. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Wednesday. It's truth time here at the TruthWire. I am one of your hosts, Greg Pasta.
And I'm the other one, Fiorella. I can't hear myself over this loud music that Jayme has to lower. So I don't know why you told him not to lower.
Maybe because your speakers are up all the way and mine are not. They weren't up all the way, and it's just my old boomer, kind of boomer, Generation X, near boomer, age just aging. I mean, I'm wearing glasses, fam, because I've had this sty on my right eye that it looks like I've been punched in the face. I can't get rid of it. It won't go away. But I'm just changing up the sunglasses and having fun with it. So thank you all for joining us today. Guys, remember, we do have a Give, Send, Go out there. We got some work that's right in front of us. We had Danny Shaw on the show, fam, who was in Cuba a couple weeks ago before all these people got there. But I think we need to find a way to highlight the allies around us because the thing the reason why I have so much respect for Danny Shaw, and whether he's in Haiti, Brazil, Nicaragua, or Cuba, he's walking amongst the people and talking to them. And they can't really exploit him as looking like he's some ideologue just out there, just to use the movement to be narcissistic and say, look at me, woe is me. And unfortunately, that's what happens with a lot of the groups that do go there. Sometimes the right is able to attack them in those ways. But we talked about this briefly. And I was on Matt's show yesterday, fam, talking about the fact that Neville Roy Singham, who the gentleman who's the funder of all these groups, whether it be the PSL, Code Pink, Answer Coalition. In fact, he's married to one of the co-founders of Code Pink, not Medea. I forgot her name. Is it Jodie Foster or
Definitely not Jodie Foster.
Not Jodie Foster. That's the actress and stuff. But I know he's married to one of the co-founders of Code Pink. He's an ideologue, right? This is not like he gets money, a direct check from Xi Jinping to go cause chaos in America. That's not what it's like, which Fox News is trying to talk about. We had mentioned this guy a long time ago. And I also mentioned, fam, on the show, it's like, remember the old saying is that the Democrats would rather lose to Donald Trump than win with Bernie Sanders? That's true. And these people, all these groups, they can't stand us anti-imperialist leftists, right? They hate us more than they hate the Republicans. That's why they kept us out of Venezuela, fam, so we couldn't go in there and report. And they kept Danny Shaw out of Venezuela. So it is hard to kind of explain what's going on and square that circle, because I do like the fact, and for instance, I think out of all those people that are there, I think that Ryan Grimm has probably done some of the better work. And I have my differences with Ryan Grimm.
He's not there.
Huh?
He's there?
He went there.
He went to Cuba?
Yeah.
Or was it a member of his team that went?
He went. He said he got into it with he went on Newsmax and he got into it with somebody there, and he actually he was talking about what's going on with sanctions and how it affects the babies and the infants, how the nurses have to hand pump stuff. I mean, like, what I'm trying to say is, out of all those the group of people, which a lot of them I don't agree with a lot of their ideology. I don't agree with the way they kind of look at things. Like I said, they discredit our work more than anything. And trying to hear a lot of them observe the Venezuelan election was so sophomoric. It was so dumb. Like when you would ask them, well, explain to us how the elections are fair. Well, the United States is a fascist country and Venezuela is a socialist country, and that's what's going. Like, no, that's not good reporting. That's not good analytics. You should let us in there. You should let the people in there who are going to report why this election would be good, bad, or indifference. But they don't. They keep us out of there too as well. But Ryan Grimm is one of those guys. And like I said, there are some good things. I think the big story is Cubans are dying because the United States sanctions and blockade is the main cause of why they are dying. I'm glad that is highlighted at times. But like you said, fam, with some of the tactics they use, the energy can be taken away from the actual message that needs to be conveyed. So there is a quagmire over there of sorts that we need to figure out how to handle this. I think it was good that we had Danny Shaw on and he was able to get there and explain, and you get to see for what's exactly going on. But this is something, fam, that is coming up. And right now, Fox News has got the full court press on. We're trying to prove that this is money coming directly from the Chinese communist government.
All right. I will have a lot of more critical statements about all of this because it has taken away from actually helping the Cuban people. I mean, there are organizations, as we highlighted, that went there to help them, that actually brought supplies, that did a lot of this, work to actually do actions to get people fed, to get people help, especially in the hospitals. But a lot of these people went there for clout, went there for for to say they went to Cuba. They didn't go to Cuba in the last, few years before all of this happened. They waited till it was a popular thing. Same thing with Gaza. And my issue as someone that is from Latin America and has also been to regions in West Asia where suddenly, it's the hot thing. Everybody goes cover it. It kind of just becomes a contest for influencers. And I think influence can be used to draw attention, but it's not the ends justify the means, like why people do things. And I always say this matters to me a lot. The reasons behind people's motivation to cover things. And, from a PR perspective, it may not matter so much, but I think at the end of the day, if it becomes about the person rather than the issue, and if that's how you cover it, then I think it actually does more damage. And I think it actually did a lot of damage because now the right wing is fully just like giving some very valid points as to how this was done in a really wrong way. And I can't sit here and tell the world like that it was smart to go bring, people who are going to flash their wealth in front of people who are starving. I just think it's ridiculous. And I also think, yeah, these people are very ideological. They're not even listening to the people who live there. They're not listening to the other side of like why they are feeling like they want to go, why they feel trapped too, because that is a reality. And we've talked about it with Danny. And if you don't listen to that opposition, and it's not an opposition that wants to overthrow the government necessarily. It's not an opposition. I'm not saying support the opposition. I would never say that. But what I'm saying is there needs to be an understanding of reality rather than what you would want it to be. And I think a lot of these people go in with the intent of wanting it to be a certain way, of just, the revolution and everything that it meant, which I think it meant a great deal. And it is important to highlight it. But it comes off as like finger wagging a lot of the times to people who live there, and then going back to your comforts in the United States, because we can do that. We can go to a country in Cuba and go back to our comforts and leave after taking a few photos. And I've always struggled with that because it's like they're not a tourist display for us to look at. And that's how this type of activism for me and for a lot of journalists who, by the way, have lived on the ground in other countries, it comes across that way. And I think maybe that's why I'm more harsh and strict, because my point of view is different. It's not like, as an American living in the West that hasn't gone abroad, that it's a little bit different. And so, yeah, I'm a lot more harsh. I'm a lot less forgiving. And I do very selectively choose who I support and who I stand by. And if people think that's harsh, oh well, but I'm going to stand by my convictions. I don't trust a lot of people. I think a lot of people have ulterior motives. And that's the reality of the media world we live in, right? And I just, ultimately the Roy Singham stuff, Gloria, our friend Gloria, who does Uncontrolled Opposition, did a phenomenal investigation into Roy Singham. We've talked about Roy Singham and all of that network before. I feel they basically create a gatekeeping society where only their voices get heard. They're the leftist go-to voices. They have, if you went through that report, take away the Fox News shit, take away the anti-communist BS, which is total BS. You read the report, the money that is given is a massive amount of money, an ungodly amount of money, millions and millions of dollars. We can't compete with that. A lot of independent media can't compete with that. They're cheerleading for a certain agenda that I think is biased. Yeah. And it's not about accuracy. It's not about truth. It's about an ideology first. And the problem with that is, if there is a problem with your ideology, if something doesn't fit, you can't tell the truth because you have to make it fit to this ideology so you can sell the news you're telling. And so I they don't like us because we tell the truth regardless. Like my ideology may be the same exact type of ideology, of really believing in a collectivist system, a system backed by the people, where the workers own the means of production, and it's just, I actually believe in that. And I have a problem with people who say that and then engage in behavior that's extremely capitalist, but you could say China is doing the same thing. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's impossible to live in a world that's run by capitalism and say, you're going to be a communist, because I think everybody would fail at that, because it's impossible, because you have to participate in the system. But what I am saying is I think there's a lot of like ideologues there that just don't actually stand by what they say. And so that's why I have a problem with it. I think people should read it and make up their own minds. I don't support a lot of the all of the anti-communist stuff said. I think it's BS that they're attacking these people just because they want to push that Cuba needs to be liberated by bombing them, by taking over their government. I think, the right weaponizes these things and they do a better job of it than the left. That is my issue. Jayme showed us a video yesterday on our WhatsApp, and it's this seemingly Latin lady talking about how, these leftists aren't really supportive of the Cuban people, but it was done in a straightforward, facts-based way. And for the normies out there, it looks far better and it seems far better researched than a lot of the things coming from, the likes of Code Pink, the likes of the Roy Singham people. Like, that screams just very, I'm in my corner, I'm in my chamber, I believe this, we're just gonna rah 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 this way, and that's it. Like, there's no logic behind it. There's no actual way to like talk to people who don't understand what you're talking about. And that's my biggest thing, is that actually backfires and it hurts the Cuban people's sovereignty, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to buy what you're selling. You think people are buying it, but nobody is. And it comes off really cringe, and it comes off really just out of
that seems like almost by design, fam. It really does. It's by design.
I don't know.
I mean, within these groups too, as well, they expel people who can think for themselves and people who can communicate well. It's like they almost put people in these groups in positions of leadership that are narcissistic, that are going to cause chaos, that, that participate mainly in cancel culture. And if somebody up at the top saying you shouldn't talk to that person over there, a lot of times the soldiers go along with it. And then you have this kind of just, reckless group running around. And but I do want to point out the fact that right now, to anybody out there who's watching and they have a friend in the right wing who's going to say that this is Chinese influence being funded, that's just not true. It's just a guy who's an ideologue and a group that are ideologues. I mean, I'm sure maybe there might be some, but it's nothing in comparison to what APEC is pushing on, a foreign government, on, officials. And you never hear that reporting going on Fox News. They're not going to talk about Donald Trump.
No, but it is. But I'm sorry. But it is a pro-China, very much pro-China, like bias. So, and they are funding a lot of people that many people don't know that they're being funded.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just Breakthrough News. It's not just Ben Norton. It's like a lot of other groups that aren't branded the same way that Russia funds off-branded shows.
Yeah.
That I know are funded by Russia, but are off-brand.
It's got to be so disappointing for you, fam. I know it's disappointing for me finding this out over the last couple of years, because, and a lot of people still think that, and that's when we talk about principles, we're going to call it out. Balls and strikes, or balls and fucking strikes. I do definitely have a different feeling. Like I've seen from my own eyes now in my own work, dealing with certain groups, going, what the fuck are you guys doing over here? Like, and it's upsetting, but, it was never about pushing one side over the other. It's about pushing the truth and the honest stuff that, that happens. And it's not always going to be roses. And a lot of these people, when we get back to digressing to the Cuba conversation, like Danny Shaw went to one of those conventions, like one of those organizations before he went to Cuba, and not as a participant because he's no longer in those groups, but as a paying person to go see and as an observer. And it's like they're still doing their same thing. They're doing their Viva La Castro shit on stage right now. And it's like, that's not going to help the present day stuff of what's going on. We got to deal and talk about what's going on now. Yeah. But those groups are still stuck in their ideology. And that ideology is supposed to be supposed to oppose the far right or the capitalist right. And that's why you have the back and forth making the noise when there's people like ourselves just trying to bring you the truth about what's going on in a nuanced manner, you know? So.
Yeah. Well, good intro to that show. And yeah. By the way, here, I'm a big fan of Castro. And I bought just a bunch of lefty books in Spanish because I need to brush up on my Spanish.
Because I got you a good book from there too.
Yeah, no, you did. You did. And
because Wyatt was thinking about buying it, and the guy was trying to pitch Wyatt, and you know, he was trying to speak English to me too, the merchant. So I was picking up on what's going on, and it was like this historic book that I got, you know, and Wyatt didn't buy it. I'm like, do you mind if I buy it for fam? And she's like, no, go for it. And I bought it for you because it was like so compelling, because that, once again, when you go there, the older people are pro-revolution, right? They remember what it was like before Castro and the revolution took place, and they remember what it was like life under Batista. So they're different. But the younger people, you know, like I said, talking to some of the younger people, they're just like, we don't give a shit about the revolution. We want to fucking eat. We want to have jobs. And so, I mean, it was just, it is an interesting a mixed bag of nuts. And I think it's important. Fam, I should have probably have gone.
Yeah, you should have.
I should have gone.
If you could have.
Yeah. But.
Next one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Peru, Nicaragua, Colombia, Brazil. There's a lot of stuff going on with those countries. All those countries we mentioned, you know, that's a lot of stuff's up for grabs. 3 of the 4 of those countries have elections. It's going to be interesting to see what's going on in Colombia, fam. That's going to be very interesting. You know what I'm saying? Because once again, remember, Colombia is the only Latin American country that has special NATO status. They never removed it, even when Gustavo Petro got involved. They are the Latin country that buys the most weapons from the United States, you know. So there's a mixed bag of nuts. When we went there, we saw that a lot of the people were settling. It was a compromise. Yeah. Gustavo Petro was the compromise candidate. He had enough within the establishment, which they'll say, we'll deal with it this time. Fam translated for the head of the Communist Party of Colombia. So we understood exactly where they were coming from. So it's going to be interesting the next move forward. Gustavo Petro never recognized the Maduro government. That was kind of fucking weird.
He just insulted them yesterday, which pissed off a lot of us, by the way.
It's stupid, like these things that are going on. But anyways, let's get into it, fam, because we do have, and by the way, Jayme, you have something over there real quickly. I think it's from Drop Site. This is the Ryan Grimm site, but you wanted to show this because we were talking, or I see it up there. You don't want to show that?
Intercept Peter Thiel cutout. Yeah. No. I mean, if it's factual, it's factual. It doesn't matter.
Put it up. No, it's the first thing for the first section.
Okay, I thought I saw something from Drop Site. Put it on up. Oh, it is. It is. I don't know why I use Drop Site.
You put it there, yeah.
I know. This is Ryan Grimm's thing, and like, there's a lot of things I disagree, especially about his rhetoric when it came to Russia, Ukraine. You know, I wanted to jump on that show that him and Kim were on. They were on. I can't remember what was the show they were on that Brianna Joy Gray took over. Anyways, there's a lot of things I disagree with Ryan Grimm, but this is him. Trump declares war. 1, regime change successful. I got a gift, fam. There. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but they gave me a gift from Iran. Saudi Arabia fighting with us. President Donald Trump spoke at the Oval Office on Tuesday, laying out his view of the war with Iran, ongoing negotiations, and regional backing. Here are the key takeaways. Why don't we just play the video? Because I'm sure there'll be times. I'm sure there'll be times throughout this whole thing.
Other video. Well, yeah. I put the same shorter video, but okay. It's like 2 different.
We can just play the first couple minutes of this and then go to the other one.
I think it's the same video. Okay.
More sense of who exactly in Iran it is either Woodcock or others are speaking with?
Yeah, we had. I hate to say this in front of these young people. They're not children. I spoke to most of them. They sound like adults to me, even though they are sort of children, right? They'll always be your children. But I hate to say it, but we killed all their leadership. And then they met to choose new leaders, and we killed all of them. And now we have a new group, and we can easily do that. But let's see how they turn out. We have really regime change. You know, this is a change in the regime because the leaders are all very different than the ones that we started off with that created all those problems. So this was, I think we can say, Jason, this is regime change, right? I don't trust anybody. I don't trust you. I mean, that's only because I know you. But if I didn't know you, I'd probably have more trust. But I don't trust anyone. Why do you say that? Why do you say what makes you trust? Do you think I trust them? I don't trust them. Because they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. It was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Stop. Get him off the screen. He's making me nauseous. I thought it was really important to play that from the beginning, fam. I wanted the beginning of that when he's talking about we killed other people. I mean, just the way he's trying to set this up. But let's be honest. He can do this because the majority of the people and the voters and the citizenry in the United States are low informed. And that's a nice way to put it up, where he can just tell this story. I think the best meme I've seen out there was Donald Trump playing with the jets and the tanks, like he's on the ground playing. I mean, this is the story he's pretty much talking of. And I told Gloria the other day when we were talking, I said, what's going to happen? He gave this ultimatum. He's going to come out and say they're negotiating with him and that he's got them to capitulate to his ways, and he's going to declare a victory, and he's going to kick back all the bullshit of his ultimatum. And lie to the American people. And wouldn't you know, fam, this is exactly what he's doing. And he can get away with this because, unfortunately, people believe his bullshit. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what, fam? I think we should hear more of the rest of what he says.
Please.
Because yeah, Jayme, just please more of the rest, because he says a lot of things that are going to be point by point rejected.
A lot of things, fam. A lot of things.
No.
Oh, this is
nuclear related. It was oil and gas related, and it was a very nice thing they did. But what it showed me is that we're dealing with the right people, because you don't know, because the leadership was killed, all gone. Khomeini, all gone, as the expression goes. The past supreme leader.
He's doing it, fam.
And then the new supreme leader was racked up, at a minimum, racked up pretty good, and everyone else was gone. And then many of the people in the third tier are gone.
Third
But
tier.
we're dealing with a group of people that I think turn out. And the present, the gift they made to us was very significant. And they said they were going to do it, and it happened. And they're the only ones that could have done it. Jennifer?
Was it related to the Strait of Hormuz and the flow of?
Yeah, it was related to the flow and to the strait, yeah.
Are you negotiating on who's going to control the strait from now on?
No, we'll have control of anything we want. Look, if we can end this without more lives being down, without knocking out $10 billion electric plants that are brand new and the apple of their eye, I'd like to be able to do that, But they can't have certain things. I mean, you know the things. I don't have to go over the list, but again, it starts with no nuclear weapons, and they've agreed to that. There won't be any nuclear weapons. They're not going to have, and they're not going to have enrichment. Any of those things. But look, I hate to say that we're in a very good bargaining position, and I hate to say that they're defenseless, because, until that last missile is fired, they have little power. But we are in about the best bargaining position. We're way ahead of schedule. And again, they have no Navy, and they have no Air Force, and they have no missile protection, and most of their missiles are gone. Most of their launches we've killed. We've killed about 80.
Killed their launchers. We stabbed their launchers to death.
They can't launch it. We've been very fast. We have the greatest military in the world. Nobody even comes close. We have the best military equipment in the world. Go ahead.
On Saudi Arabia, there's been some reporting that you've been talking to the Crown Prince. Have you been focus on normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel.
Oh, no, we have a great relationship with Saudi Arabia. What do you hear with Saudi Arabia?
Talking and that he has been encouraging you to do certain things related to Iran. Can you share?
Yeah, he's a warrior. He's fighting with us, by the way. Saudi Arabia has been
Fam, how much
excellent.
more of this do we got to go through?
UAE, excellent. And I will tell you, Qatar, incredible. Qatar took a hit, pretty bad hit. Qatar is very close. You know, they're essentially, you can walk right over the border. Qatar took a hit. They've been great. They've been very strong. Kuwait.
Okay,
they
you can
had a
stop it.
mishap.
So he's lying through his teeth, because imagine if the war was over and the United States have won, why would they be pushing to talk to Iran constantly for them to stop? Why would they be pushing negotiations? They wouldn't be pushing anything.
Yeah.
Like it's very obvious he's lying. And I think the other tweet is basically that video, right? Again, where he says, it's the part where he says the war is over, the war has been won.
Play it.
Um,
Well, I think we're going to end it. I can't tell you for sure. You know, I
no,
don't like
no,
to
it's the
say
next
this.
tweet. He declares victory over Iran.
We've
It's
won
CR.
this. This war has been won.
Yeah, this
The
war's
only
been
one
won.
that likes to keep it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally
They
have
have nothing.
planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country. They can't do a thing about it. Well, I think we're going to end it.
Okay.
I can't tell you
So-
for sure.
Fam, those are all Trump's lies. What does Israel say?
Well, Israel came out right after, this is from Al Jazeera English, pretty much after they made the announcement. And Jayme, you can throw it up. Israel's military will operate according to an unchanged plan in Iran and Lebanon, regardless of the talks aimed at ending the war, said military spokesman Brigadier General F.A. Defren in a televised briefing. And you can click on the whole thing, Jayme, the red thing. You know, pretty much that's it. You know, they're going to keep acting. They're not stopping, in other words, is what they said, regardless of what's going on, which is kind of odd, because if the United States was talking about ending a war with Iran, right, wouldn't they have to talk to Israel, who's part of the bombing campaign? I mean, none of it makes sense at all when you look at this stuff. You know, I did star from Ruth, or Friendly Brilliant, her comment, and I bet all of his worshipers believe him. It's crazy that so many people who are awake during this scandemic are asleep now. Well, it just shows you, Friendly Brilliant, the power of team sports. They're not looking for the truth. They're looking for confirmation bias. And, you know, we have to deal with some of these people on some of our posts, and some of them, they're so stupid, but I just can't help it but fucking responding back. But yeah, there's a bunch of people who can, no matter what, who are going to support what Donald Trump says. And I tried to highlight that yesterday when I was on Matt's show, all the usual suspects. Wow, look what Donald Trump did. He got the Iranians to say they'll never do this again. Holy smoke, he really is one of the best presidents of all time. You have that media sphere, and this is the right now doing what the left got able to do when they were during this scandemic and everything they're doing. Now the right is doing this.
Mm-hmm.
They're being highlighted, and Elon Musk is pushing all that rhetoric out there while silencing other people. We don't have an open source system. So yeah, it is upsetting, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to believe his bullshit, and we know it's not true. We know it's not true at all. And yesterday we saw plenty of evidence that Iran, that their missile launchers, fam, are not killed. They're still alive.
They're still
They're
alive
mobile
and
trucks,
kicking.
guys. They're mobile trucks. They probably got thousands of them underground. Once again, you probably never looked at Iran on a topographic map. And the first person who said, don't look at Iran on just a regular map, look at a topographic map. And you look at it, there's mountain regions all over the place. They got plenty of cover. And haven't we learned from what we learned in Afghanistan that the Mujahideen and the Taliban and all these other groups can protect themselves underground in the caves? What's going on in Gaza? What has Hamas's number one tactic been? Tunnels underground. You can't kill them. So Donald Trump is lying when he says they've killed their trucks. No, the Iranian media reported, and I tweeted this last week, they're starting to bring out the new guns, fam. The new weaponry from Iran is starting to come out, just starting now. and they bankrupted the United States and its allies using Patriot missiles that cost billions of dollars to shoot down their old ammunition. Now they got the heavy stuff, and they're going to use it. So regardless of their Navy being on the bottom floor, if you want to believe that, or no Air Force, whatnot, they got missiles, and they got a lot in the can, and they know how to fight this war. Go ahead, fam.
So, first of all, I want to say to all the people that bought this, how would you even buy anything the United States is saying right now? Because they've been lying this whole time. You need to have confirmation from Iran. But yesterday, everybody was just saying, wow, okay, the war's over, blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of these people taking, into account what random accounts on X said. And one of the things I want to also push back on is any sort of idea that Israel would conduct anything without the United States knowing about it. So simultaneously, while Trump is saying the war is over, it's done, and Iran has conceded, if it's over, why is Israel still attacking? And why would Israel attack without the United States knowing? So it's clearly not over. The United States wanted to buy more time. They wanted to try to trick Iran. They think they still don't understand actually who they're dealing with. And Iran came back quickly. And this is what I added to this section. I said, Iran never said this. They understand that all of these people are warmongers, because there was another thing that was going around that said that Iran wanted to talk to J.D. Vance and not Witkoff and Kushner. They don't see a difference between J.D. Vance, Witkoff, or Kushner. They would never, and this is coming from CNN, they would never care if they were talking to Tweedledee or Tweedledum. Like they look at all of them as Zionist enablers. And people were then as soon as this came out from CNN, people were out there trying to say that J.D. Vance wasn't as bad of a Zionist as the other two. It's like, are you serious right now? Do you have any idea about what Iran is as a society, as a nation, as a people? I don't think you do. And I think a lot of people need to really study who they are if you're going to start, doing analysis, because it becomes like tedious every time. Oh, this happened. It's like, no, a lot of this stuff didn't happen. And then Iran obviously had rejected this so-called ceasefire or negotiation by the United States, and did say, and this came from the actual Iranian forces, that they aren't going to negotiate on anybody's terms but their own. And so later this came out from the IRGC, and we can watch this video and I can translate it. I can read it if we play it, Jayme. Well, that was the tweet, and then the video is from the IRGC that's really going to talk about the price of oil. Can you remove the banner? Thank you. In the name of Allah, the most gracious. Can you turn it? Can you do it again, because I couldn't hear? In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. The strategic power you boasted about has turned into a strategic defeat. If the world's supposed superpower could escape this predicament, it would have happened by now. Don't call your defeat an agreement. The era of your promise has ended. Today in the world, there are two fronts, truth and falsehood. And no free truth seeker is deceived by your media propaganda waves. Your conflicts have reached the stage of negotiating with yourselves. There will be no news of your investments in the region, nor will you see the previous prices of energy and oil, until you understand that stability in the region is guaranteed by the powerful hand of our armed forces. Stability, power. We clearly declare that until it is our will, no situation will return to its previous state. This will be created when the thought of acting against The Iranian nation is completely cleansed from your dirty minds. Our first and last word from this has been the same from the first day. It is and will be. No one likes us comes to terms with the likes of you. Not now and not at any other time. And victory comes only from Allah, the mighty, the wise. So there you go. He pretty much said everything he needed to say. Pasta, you're frozen. And, you know, I think when we look at what Iran's saying, I'm not saying that they're incapable of twisting something. I'm not saying they're not going to have their own slant and their own propaganda, but they're literally telling everybody, this is, you're negotiating with yourselves. They're mocking the United States in front of the world, and everybody's laughing. I mean, everybody, like, politically, right? We're all watching this and we're all thinking, how can you at this point not be cheering for Iran? I mean, what they're doing is they're fighting not just for themselves, they're fighting for the future of the entire region. And they told you right now that that's what they're doing.
The commercial, fam, was fighting for the entire world. I saw you were looking down. I don't know if you saw it from RT when they showed the missiles going. Did you see that commercial? It was in the beginning, and we played it. But they had, you know, children looking up from Gaza, from all of the parts of the region, children looking up from Epstein Island. And when they bombed, the missile went through, it hit the ball on the statue of United States. And it really does. I mean, we are the terrorists. We're the ones going around bombing, killing people all the time. And it amazes me how people of this country just can repeat the rhetoric as if what we're actually doing is necessary. You know, like what we're doing is we're fighting for humanity. No, we're destroying humanity. There's a bunch of poor people on this planet that are dying at the whim of rich people who are doing this, whatnot, who want to control all the resources and stuff. I thought maybe today, fam, but maybe on Friday. And by the way, Elizabeth Kucinich has hit us up. She's going to be with us on Friday. That's Dennis Kucinich's wife. Sorry to make the announcement. I just got the text, but she's confirmed, and it's going to be really cool. And, you know, we'll be able to talk about Maha. We'll talk about global change and all that other bullshit. But there are a bunch of people over here, you know, your tweet included, that this is the Great Reset. This is the Agenda 2030. This is what's happened. This is what we're going into. And there's so many distractions with this president. You know what I'm saying? That they're getting this done. Even what's going on in front of us, how AI is involved. You know, we're going to talk about that. So there's a lot going on, and I think we need to wrap our heads about what's going on. And it's unfortunate right now that a lot of the conservatives, the populist right, got duped into what's going on. But I do believe there's a lot of them that are breaking away. Let's see what Donald Trump's doing, and they're like, no way, I'm not playing this anymore. And it's time to start putting our eye on the real problem, and that is what's our government and our CIA and that deep state who is running things. So, oh, by the way, fam, too, as well, I just wanted to show you, because I know we talked about this before. Somebody says it's topographic. I'm sorry. I don't want to say it like I say the fourth estate, and I get in trouble instead of saying the fourth estate. A topographic map of Iran, but look at it. Look at it. Look how much shelter. You know how long they've been building in those mountains for, guys? They can't be touched. The only way to do that is to go in a ground invasion and get them. There's no ground invasion happening. It's not. So this is not they're not going to surrender. They understand what's at stake. Look at that, guys. Jayme, I think you put it in the chat. Those mountains are no joke, right? They are no joke. So don't think for 1 second that they're going to surrender. They're not. They're ready to fight. We saw people on the streets of Tehran saying, you know, I never really got involved with governmental rallies and other stuff, but I'm ready to come out and I'm ready to fight and take up arms if the Americans want to invade. That's what's going on in Iran right now, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake about it. What's the next tweet, by the way? Is it from... Did you put something else in there?
Yeah, I put a lot of stuff in there.
Oh, please.
Because there's been a lot of updates since
yes,
you
since yesterday.
So again, many took this as fact when they were lying. So they responded negatively to these American proposals aimed at ending the ongoing imposed war, insisting that any cessation of hostilities will only occur on their terms. So let's watch this video. This is directly from the government of Iran. This was read by Press TV in English. So let's hear it.
The latest updates we have for you, of course, coming to you from Press TV. The latest is an exclusive information coming to you from an Iranian, of course, a senior official saying, giving conditions for the war to end, that only if these conditions are met, Iran, of course, will end the war. If at a time of its own choosing. A few of these points, conditions from this specific official, saying that Iran will not allow Donald Trump to dictate, of course, the timing of the war's end. Iran demands an end to the aggression by the enemy. It is demanding the establishment of concrete guarantees preventing the recurrence of war. Also demanding the clear determination, guaranteed payment of war damages and compensation. Also a comprehensive end to the war across all fronts, even including the resistance groups. And last main important one, of course, is the recognition of Tehran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz as its natural and legal right.
That includes Gaza, that includes Palestine, and there's a video that backs that. So that's directly from Iran. They're basically shutting all of this down. And there's the terms of Iran that they have stated further here on the next tweet. This just came out. The conditions, as she just stated, complete end to aggression, guaranteed war reparations, which I have a hard time thinking the United States is ever going to give any kind of reparations to anyone. Let's be serious here. Region-wide ceasefire for all fronts, sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. Full details on the attached image. And if you can click on that image, we can look in that image. It pretty much says the same thing, right? And again, Iran evaluated these proposals and considers the U.S. proposals a deception aimed at escalating tensions. It says in both past instances, the United States did not have a genuine intention to negotiate and instead proceeded with military attacks on Iran, which is, again, what happened. Iran has rejected the proposal and conveyed their own a proposal. So these are the conditions that we just read. And they say these conditions are separate from the demands Iran presented to the other side during the second round of negotiations in Geneva. Iran has informed all mediators acting in good faith that a ceasefire will only take place once its conditions are accepted. Until then, no negotiations will be conducted. We will continue to defend ourselves until these conditions are fulfilled. Iran will end the war when it decides to do so, not when Trump intends it to end. It doesn't get any more clear than this. And the newest, by the way, the newest thing, and I believe we might have, I don't think we played this one, but he's saying that all of the U.S. bases in the region have been destroyed. Right. So this is today and last night. Remember, Iran's 8.5 hours ahead. So if you want, we can quickly read this one. It's 30 seconds. So let's play this one. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, given that all American bases in the region have been destroyed, American commanders and soldiers have fled and taken shelter in hideouts outside the bases. And we are searching for them. We ask the people of the countries in the region to report their hiding locations. And at the same time, for their own security, demand the expulsion of Americans from the region. And victory comes only from God, the Almighty, the All-Wise. So he's saying they attacked the military bases, the Americans escaped, and they're trying to capture them. And if anybody has information on these Americans that escaped, please let them know. I mean, this is how do you seriously look at the world in the face and say you've won when they're bombing your bases? They immediately bombed Israel last night, immediately, Tel Aviv, and they're capturing your soldiers, which, by the way, we're still not getting numbers in the US, right? About how many dead, injured, disappeared. You're not going to get them. Nobody's buying this. Even people who support Trump are still probably like, they're not saying it, but they're like, all right, what's going on? Why is there so much back and forth? You know, how do you hide that? You really can't hide that. I don't know, Fam, anything to say on that?
It's, I'm just thinking about everything that's taking place where there's a lot of people in the conservative movement that are trying to talk about elections. Like, because they still want to say that, Donald Trump had the election stolen from Iran and Venezuela because they wanted to hurt America. And Donald Trump is the president right now. And what the fuck do you call what's happening to us right now? I mean, hurt is not even the word. I mean, what we've witnessed from this Trump administration with Witkoff and Rubio and luring people in to kill them. You think the Iranians would trust him again? When is anybody going to trust the Americans? We've completely had Donald Trump blow up any type of diplomacy whatsoever. I mean, it's gone. And a lot of people are cheering it on because they believe the story that they're the victim, right? The United States got taken advantage for so long. And here's Donald Trump squaring that circle and straightening shit out and resetting the table. And he's also resetting the table in the Middle East. And a lot of people are saying, all their cohorts and their people in the media, this is for the short-term pain, for the long-term gain. This is gonna be good down the road. And you still see that rhetoric out there, like, well, this is necessary, that we have to straighten out these terrorists in those regions and get rid of them and level the playing field, when mostly this is about moving people into QR codes, track and trace systems, and eventually they want to get us all in that digital currency, whether it be a stable coin or a central bank digital currency, so they can control everything. And a lot of this is resetting all that stuff, because as fuel shortages are low and fertilizer shortages are low, who's that going to hurt more than anybody? The small farmer. And they're going to be pretty much wiped off the fucking planet right now, so they can move us into this system that so many people have been talking about. There have been people talking about this shit for a long time. Obviously they've been silenced in the shadows. The only problem is they never really had a nuanced kind of mentality and didn't understand the region of what was going on and why a lot of these countries capitulated, or not, I don't want to say capitulate, but digressed or moved to a system which was a collectivist system to kind of survive. So there's a lot of nuance going on over there, but I'm just laughing at this whole situation, what's going on. And they are seeking out and looking for the soldiers hiding in hotels. And how is the UAE or Qatar going to survive after this? I mean, Qatar is pretty much now bled with all their liquid natural gas facilities destroyed, right? They have to pull contracts, and that was a big part of their wealth. And tourism, they're really dependent on tourism. Who's going to want to go stay in the hotels in UAE and Qatar when they're being bombed right now by Iran? These people are going to be, it's so much shit is going to come of this, fam, right? And it was very sad seeing what was going on in Russia, Ukraine, and Gaza during the Biden administration, because there's so much of this weaponry being used that we knew we were getting to other new forms of weaponry, and they were trying stuff out. They were testing the AI, but it was suffering across the board. But now Donald Trump comes in, and it's just a whole different avenue of suffering. But the planet is being bled. They're being suffered. People are suffering right now. And it's the poor people who are really going to take it on the nose as we come out of these situations, when we do come out of them. But they're far from over, far from over.
Yeah, we're not coming out of this anytime soon. And you asked this question before, I think, to Satara, Dr. Satara Siddiqui, and to others, if Iran was going to be fighting for Gaza, and they pretty much answer you here in this next one. We don't need to listen to it, but I just want to reiterate his message. The spokesperson of the Khatam al-Anbiya headquarters in Arabic, he said, "We are not fighting only for our country, but we are fighting in defense of the oppressed Islamic Ummah and the people of Palestine." So when Iran is fighting, and I think we've kind of all touched on this, they're not just fighting for Iran, they're fighting for the resistance, they're fighting for Palestine, for Gaza, and as they alluded to in that video, the entire world, towards, against the Epstein empire. And I think a lot of people have kind of taken that and really seen Iran in a different light, because they're fighting because they were attacked. They're not fighting unprovoked. They've been restrained before, and they learned from that. They said, we're not going to do the same thing we did during the 12-day war. And that's become very clear. I want to mention that the fact that there was a new security chief elected in Iran. And if we can put that one up, Jayme, there's a little bit about him. His name is General Mohammed Bahar Zolgadar. He was born in 1954. He has a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Tehran. And he is a father-in-law of Iran's current deputy foreign minister, Kazem Garibabadi. And he was part of, Pasta, you're going to love this, he was part of the Mojahideen in the 70s.
Hey!
In the Islamic Revolution organization Mansurun, with other figures in the IRGC, and they all fought against the Shah. So this guy has credentials. He fought also in the Iran-Iraq War as a commander of the IRGC, irregular warfare headquarters, as well as a Ramazan headquarters. He was responsible for commando operations behind enemy lines inside Iraq. This preceded the Quds forces, which are the other resistance forces that are there now. And yeah, there's a lot more. So you guys, I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can look into him a little bit more deeply. But he's a revolutionary guy. He's definitely somebody that I think was placed strategically to replace Larijani. And he's written books. He's, you know, these guys, they've all written books. They're all like extremely intelligent, you know, and we have just the likes of a bunch of idiots like Pete Hegseth. And it's just, I mean, it's embarrassing, but, you know, I think we're kind of used to it at this point. So I just wanted to update everybody on that. There's
The way this country worships and lifts up the stupid. This is the dumbest campaign of all time. So what comes out of Donald Trump's mouth on a regular basis is just beyond ridiculous, you know. So I mean, they're pandering to the most low-informed out there, you know, and that's what we have on both sides now. It's complete. It's complete. The most shallowest, just is that a word? Shallowest? The most shallow people out there, you know what I'm saying? On both sides now have been captured and pushed, and the majority of Americans don't want all this bullshit that's going on. They see through the crap, but, you know, they're so consumed with just trying to pay rent and put food on the table. But we have to find a way to come together, you know, and that is beat back the idiots and the propaganda within our own country, because until we do that, nothing will change. And I think that we need to get an actual count of how many American soldiers have been hurt and dead, because that's unfortunately takes this American exceptionalism, fam, of their own troops to be killed before they can stop speaking up, because unfortunately, a bunch of girls at an Iranian school is not bad enough for them. I mean, you know, I don't know how it okays their Christ-like beliefs to keep supporting shit like this when we see stuff like that happen, especially the double tap of the tomahawks. But let's go to the next clip.
Yeah, well, I don't really believe a lot of these people actually are Christian. So again on this topic, right? This person said Russians probably don't know it yet, but their future as a people depends on an Iranian total victory. And I agree with that, but I think it's more than Russia. I think it's how we see this world. And you know what? I forgot to bring up my tweet because there's a lot going on, but I'm going to bring it up during the energy section because there's a lot going on, as Pasta said earlier, around this war that I think a lot people may not be talking about in the way of connecting all the dots. But it's not just, oh, Iran is a distraction to get us into CBDCs. No, that's also not, that you're dismissing a very real thing that is actually happening. Iran isn't fake. They're not theatrically getting bombed because they want to usher in CBDCs. Like when you put it that way without actually explaining what you're talking about, it becomes really stupid and just really disrespectful of people's lives that are at stake here, and not just Iran, but the resistance. So I am going to go into how this is all connected, but in the next section, Pasta, when we go. And the last thing, fam, I want to just point out here. This was new. This was breaking news of this morning. Qatar, you mentioned Qatar. They issued a statement of unity with Iran. This is reportedly from the Qatari Foreign Ministry. Iran has been here for thousands of years. No one is going anywhere. Complete destruction is not an option. No nation or country will disappear from existence at the will or whim of any political actor. I guess that includes Israel. We will live side by side. You can't with Israel. We will be neighbors for the future of humanity and must find ways to live together. We must find a way to get through this situation. This is a very difficult moment, but we'll find a way out of it.
Can I translate that from Qatar, the king?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you hit us and you fucked us up. We're so sorry. Please just stop right now. We can't take this anymore. We're about to lose everything. We were wrong to have American bases here. I promise you moving forward, we won't have any more bases and stuff. Your other demands on Israel, I can't because I have to capitulate somewhat to the West. But man, please stop. This is more than we bargained for. Translation.
Yeah, that's true.
You got your fucking ass handed to you, and now you're looking for a way out. And they told you plain and simple, get the United States bases off your fucking land now, or we'll keep bombing you. And they're hiding out in other countries, other Western-friendly countries. They're no longer here. We're done. We're sorry. We apologize. You know, and they have to, because if you watch the World Cup in Qatar last time, the people are not cool with Israel. They're not cool with the apartheid state telling them what to do. They're not cool with it. They embarrassed the citizens of Qatar and the region, embarrassed the Israeli press at the World Cup. They don't fucking want it. So the king is going, mercy, uncle, whatever fucking word it is, please stop. We recognize you. You ain't going nowhere with it. Please. That's what that says right fucking there, ladies and gentlemen. And you don't have to be an expert in the region to understand that. Don't be bullshat. They're bullshatting. Fam, this next section we have coming up, by the way, guys, go to our Give, Send, Go. If you can help on out, we really appreciate it. Fam and I, we're looking to get our boots on the ground. We're going to get ahead of the curve. A lot of the stuff we're going to show you in Latin America, they're going to be in the target zone. Your tax dollars will be used for regime change in these countries, especially with this fucking crazy president and his cohorts. Go over there to Election Integrity Matters. It's givesendgo.com/election integrity matters. Help us on out. Give us some love. But if you care and you can't give, then share. Hit that share on up. Who's the last donator over here, Jayme? Chris Allegre, a day ago. Afinsky. But before that, it was 6 days from Eric V. Mum. So, guys, if you can help on out, we got a lot of stuff to cover, and we're going to get you ahead of the curve. We're going to let you know what's going on before all these other idiots show up and it's the last moment. You'll know, right? You'll be prepared at the Thanksgiving table this year if you watch the TruthWire, and you're going to be a part of being a producer if you help us on out or if you share, because you're going to be part of this movement of real citizen journalism, which all these other groups now you hear this all the time, right? I'm starting a group of citizen journalism. Yeah, biased, slanted, team sports citizen journalism. Yeah, we know it, okay? You're going to get real citizen journalism. And we don't give a shit when the left and the right both hate you. You're probably doing something right because you're not playing team sports. So let us get you on the ground. Look at that. Fred Edward, you sexy son of a bitch.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred Edward.
You sexy son of a bitch.
Sexy SOB.
Son of a B. Guys, do it. Help us out. We're going to get you on the ground. A lot of stuff going on. Peru, a lot of shit going on. A lot at stake. So please. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I don't want to talk about this right now because I want to write on it more deeply. But The Intercept did put this out recently. And I'm going to their article because it's the most recent one.
Please.
So I don't know if you guys seen this, but in Latin America, this is why we're ahead of the game. The Pentagon has revealed attacks in Latin America are just the beginning with Operation Total Extermination. That's the name of the operation. And Trump's threats against Cuba. Expect more U.S. military strikes in the region. Before Donald Trump was elected, we literally told you this would happen.
Before he got into office, fam, before he was sworn in, we fucking said it. Go ahead.
And West Asia and Latin America were the two regions, and that's exactly what's happening. And this is what I'll just read the beginning, right? They said, as the Trump administration continues to bombard Iran, a top Pentagon official revealed that U.S. wars in the Western Hemisphere are also expanding, unveiling an effort dubbed Operation Total Extermination. Attacks on Latin American drug cartels are just the beginning. Joseph Humire, the acting Assistant Secretary of War for Homeland Defense and America's Security Affairs, told members of the House Armed Services Committee last week. He indicated many more strikes in Latin America are on the horizon. The comments came a day after President Donald Trump again teased American annexation of Cuba. And so this guy also announced the Department of War supported bilateral kinetic actions against cartel targets along the Colombia-Ecuador border. We have already seen the attacks on Ecuador. And so this was for the March 3rd strikes, the designated terrorist organizations that we all heard about in Ecuador. And the joint effort named Operation Total Extermination is just the start of a military offensive by Ecuador against transnational criminal organizations with the support of the U.S. So there's a lot more that's going to happen in Latin America that I think we all need to be paying attention to. And it's no coincidence that this is happening during a time when you have elections in Brazil, Colombia, Peru. And right now, the two candidates leading Peru are both right wingers. And when we mean in Latin America right wingers, we mean like paramilitary, like hardcore. We're gonna turn the state into a fascist entity, right wingers. And I was just told yesterday that there's likely going to be protests no matter what in July, because the Peruvian Independence Day is July 28th, and the Peruvian election will be the Peruvian president will be sworn in around exactly on that day. So anytime between that, it's going to get hairy no matter what. And by the looks of it, if there is a right winger elected, I think you're going to see a lot of pushback from people from the other parts of the region. The rural indigenous communities, they're going to come in. So things are about to heat up here. There's also the competition between China and the United States for businesses here and business influences. Gold, silver, lithium, copper. And then we have Colombia, of course, that's also gearing up for elections. And then Brazil against a Bolsonaro, is it Bolsonaro's son and other more neoliberal.
Running, yeah. I don't know exactly. We're going to figure that more out. We have some connections there too. We've been there before for the last election, so we'll be able to bring you what's going on. And don't get me wrong. Like, you can see a lot of the media over there. They thought that leftism in America was all about supporting Kamala Harris because of the fear of Donald Trump. So there's the kind of media control over there that there is over here. There's a lot of going on. Brazil's a interesting, nuanced, mixed bag of nuts. So we'll see what's going on over there. But we were able to see a lot of this stuff even through our travels. Like I did these events at the American Project during the Biden administration that were about election integrity. They're set to speak on the solutions panel. And right before my panel goes on, which was the last panel of the day, I have all these people going up of candidates who got robbed and speaking about election integrity and how do we fix this here and make it more transparent. Lara Logan, who was the MC of the event, stopped our panel, paused our panel so she can bring on a guy who used to work at the border as an ex-border patrol guy. And they were there to talk about this invasion going on over the border and how this particular agent was set to make a pitch to the Trump administration if they get back into office to designate the cartels as a terrorist organization. Now, that's not about just saying we're recognizing this group over here as being bad and we need to keep an eye on them. That's about giving the executive branch more powers to go around Congress to do what they need to do. This whole mindset of going into Mexico without the permission of their government because they're labeled as a terrorist organization, and if they're listed as a terrorist organization, this is going back to George W. Bush when they changed the game. When you label people a certain way, enemy combatant, you take away their rights. You take away these other countries' sovereignty by listing the cartels as a terrorist organization. But we understood that it was giving the executive branch more power to do more regime change operations, because this is what it's about. It's not about labeling the cartels as bad people and recognizing that. It's about giving yourself more power, the executive branch, to go in with these regime change wars, which is something we should have been talking about, pushing back against forever. And Donald Trump was supposed to be against all this stuff, but now the same rhetoric that we heard in Iraq from the Bush administration is the same thing we hear in Iran, and that's the quagmire we're in. So we understood and we recognized it from our own travels and things we were involved in to say, hey, man, guys, there's going to be a pivot to Latin America, the likes of like no one's seen, fam. We knew that was coming, and here it is. And fam brought it to your attention, and that's what we're up against. So help us out, guys. Get on our Give, Send, Go. Get us to these spots. We'll show you what's going on the ground, and you'll know what's going on ahead of time. You'll be the smartest person in the room because you're getting unbiased citizen journalism of what's really going on. You're going to win Thanksgiving because you supported the TruthWire. If you want to win Thanksgiving, support the TruthWire. You know what I'm saying?
They'll win Thanksgiving no matter what about watching the show.
Our audience,
yeah.
And we love, we look at your opinions. We look what you have to say in the chat. We got a smart audience. We love it. So please help us out. Share, like, subscribe, do all those good things because we are being censored and we need your help. Fam, you and Vanessa have been doing amazing work on explaining what's going on in Lebanon. And right now, I think people are missing that. So much attention is being paid to what's going on around the Strait of Hormuz, those bases, the power plants, all that right now, and less attention is being paid to Israel's, expanding of the greater Israel into Lebanon. And over 1 million people have filed for displacement. People don't understand the Lebanese government, the craziness of the way it's structured, that it has to have representation of different religions, how Hezbollah is trying to get in there and do some work. But let's break in. Let's get into this right now, because I want you to give us some insight to what's going on, because the Nakba against southern Lebanon right now is taking place. So this is from Middle East Eye, and it says Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, said hundreds of thousands of Lebanese civilians forced to flee the south would not be allowed to return until security for residents of northern Israel is ensured. Fam, that sounds like the Nakba of the 1940s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of what they told Palestinians that they could not return into security, and they never got to return, fam, to this day. Could you talk about the parallels over here? And this was said out loud by Israel Katz.
I mean, this would be millions of people, so this would be far bigger than what the Nakba was at this point. And a lot of people have been reporting on this, who are in the region, have been talking about, this is going to be a huge, huge, huge Nakba. What's that?
I got an alarm going on, guys. I got to get out of here 1 second. I got to make sure my mom's okay. I'll be back.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That was scary. Okay. And, Vanessa's been reporting on it. Steve Sweeney's been reporting on it. This is catastrophic. Basically, they're sending out leaflets and pamphlets and they're putting them out in the streets, very Nazi-like, and telling people to get out or they're going to be bombarded. But the thing is, they position it like people can come back after Israelis feel secure, but you very well know that they're not going to be allowed to come back. They're trying to capture southern Lebanon. And as Pasta, I think, posted here, right, there's going to be a pushback both by Hezbollah, but also by the Lebanese government. And you can put up the next one. It's this report to have a visual idea of how the Lebanese resistance is actively pursuing the Israeli invaders and preventing them to establish safe positions from inside the Lebanese lands. If you can click on the second tweet, it says South Lebanon battle report by Al-Manar correspondent Ali Shoaib. An escalation in the pace of confrontations on the three axes in southern Lebanon and the targeting of enemy mechanisms. We can play this, I believe. It's in, we can go ahead and play it. The most prominent escalating scene of confrontations in the border region specifically is targeting Israeli tanks and bulldozers in Qiyam city and also in Taibeh town, as well as Khawaza town, where these three axis witness increased Israeli movements met with increased targeting operations. We're talking about attempts to build berms and bulldozing operations that occurred this morning. So this was yesterday, from this morning until noon hours. An Israeli occupation bulldozer was conducting berm construction and bulldozing operations, adding to the series of explosions carried out in the southern and eastern neighborhoods of Qiyam city. This operation, the bulldozing operation, was happening south of the detention center, specifically at the top of a hill overlooking the rest of Qiyam Plain and Marjayun area in the rear areas of Sarda and Bazani. This is all southern Lebanon. In addition to Karfikla and surrounding areas, since this point is a strategic location in Qiyam city, perhaps the enemy army was trying to establish a position in this area. The resistance confronted this attempt and destroyed the tank that was working to establish this point. Around this point also, there was a gathering of Israeli occupation tanks. The resistance dealt with them using appropriate means and destroyed these three tanks, at least targeting them with suitable weapons. So Israeli occupation forces with their groups and soldiers and vehicles cannot rest in the position. So Hezbollah is fighting back in a specific location because the resistance pursues them from place to place wherever they are in the eastern or southern neighborhoods of the Qiyam city. This also applies to Israeli movements in the town of Taybeh, where a bulldozer tank was also working on bulldozing and raising barriers to protect some tanks located around the Taybeh project. The resistance targeted this bulldozer with a guided missile, and positions in Taybeh remain unchanged despite the infiltration of infantry forces in the town center and southern eastern neighborhoods, carrying out a series of explosions and burning houses. However, Taybeh, like Qiyam, still has its northern and western neighborhoods under air raids and artillery shelling, indicating shared control between Israeli occupation forces and resistance amid continued clashes on these two fronts. A new front has been added that the Israeli occupation army started in the Qaza area. Israeli forces advanced during nighttime hours to the town of Al-Qaza. The resistance spotted the beginning of a house where Israeli occupation soldiers were taking cover. They fired a guided missile at this house, which led to confirmed casualties due to the missile's direct hit on this building. Then followed by targeting movements of Israeli occupation forces in the town with swooping attacks. So as you can see, he's basically outlining the battle between the Israeli occupation forces in southern Lebanon, in Qiyam, and other places that he mentions. Qiyam is the village where Marwa Osman is from. So that one has been relentlessly attacked for a long time now, for months. And, Vanessa yesterday, in the last few days, went and did a whole report on the Israeli attacks. And basically what the Hezbollah is trying to do is fight back. And I think a lot of people underestimate Hezbollah, just like they underestimated Iran. And they've been fighting back, pushing back on the Israeli forces. And again, this is all part of the greater operation to take over the entire region. This is how they do it. They've always focused a lot on Lebanon because they feel it's more attainable, because the Lebanese government has continuously pretty much tried to side with the Israeli forces. And in the next article, you can put up, Jayme, you can see this: Lebanon has declared Iran's ambassador persona non grata. And this is ridiculous, I think. I'll read some of this. The Iranian ambassador Mohammad Reza Rauf Shibani is persona non grata. They've ordered him to leave the country. The foreign ministry announced, the Lebanese foreign ministry. This was said on a post on X. This does not constitute a severing of diplomatic relations with Iran, but rather a measure taken against the ambassador for violating diplomatic norms and obligations as an appointed ambassador in Lebanon. Ambassador Shibani made statements in which he interfered in the internal politics of Lebanon and assessed the decisions taken by the government. In addition, he held meetings with unofficial Lebanese parties. He's literally talking about Hezbollah without going through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Literally, nobody respects the Lebanese government. They consider them traitors. This is like, we're talking about a lot of people who support Hezbollah because they're the ones that take up arms and defend them against the Israelis. But here, the ministry says that the Lebanese ambassador to Iran has been recalled for consultation. So this is, again, they're scared. The Lebanese government is scared. And their solution to this is to basically, bow down to Israel and let Israel take over. And you'll have a lot of that fear coming out from regular people, who may not be a part of Hezbollah or who are scared. They just want this war to end. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. We have nothing to do with this war with Iran. We just want this to end. Well, the reality is Hezbollah is the only thing stopping all of them from being completely exterminated by Israel. And that's why Israel constantly targets Hezbollah. That's why they've been designated a terrorist organization. And if you are a normie and you hear the name Hezbollah in the United States, you're going to be told that they're like Hamas, that they're a terrorist organization. They're not. Are you okay?
Yeah, it's the alarm that went off in the building, and I had to make sure that it was a false alarm or a tester. So, got to get my mom in the wheelchair, get her ready to get out the door. Then I, finally get a hold of somebody and like, oh, it's just a test. And then I can stop. I don't have to get my mom out the door, but then I have to wait for the test to be done. It just stopped 30 seconds ago. So that alarm sound was going off. And it sucks because I really wanted to get educated on this section about you.
Well,
Yeah. But I mean, you're saying something that's really important. When a normie hears the word Hezbollah, they automatically equate terrorism, bad group. And yeah. So go ahead, please.
No, I was just saying, that's what they hear, but that's not the truth. I mean, Hezbollah is the only thing that's keeping Lebanon from total takeover by Israel. And if Hezbollah wasn't fighting back as you laid out in this section, then they would be gone. And just because the Lebanese government, who many view as treacherous and Israeli controlled, is bowing down and saying, hey, we have nothing to do with this. The ambassador to Iran is being recalled. We're chastising him. We're going after him. Israel's not going to stop their attacks. They're not going to stop until they take all of Lebanon. They're starting with the south, but they're not going to stop till they take all of it. So again, this is why Iran is so important in their fight, and what they're fighting for is so much bigger than just Iran. It's essential to the entire region, to the entire world. Because if Iran doesn't succeed, we're going to be fully in control of the Epstein cabal, essentially. And that's the same people behind this war, the same people behind the pedophilia at home, the domestic issues at home. It's the same type of people that are protected. And if Iran doesn't totally win this war, that's where we're going. Oh shit. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and go to the last
really
section.
Quick question while they do that. I might have to, I don't know how long.
You're muted.
Let me go figure this out. It's really loud in here. I'm going to be away. But my question was, and the question I really had was the state of the Lebanese. I'm going to cut out. I'll come.
Yeah. It must be really loud because I can hear it all the way. Yeah, well, so that's the Lebanon section that Pasta brought. And you know what? I'm gonna let him work. Jayme, let's skip this section because I want him to go over it. Iraq has entered the war, the resistance, but they were attacked, so that's why they entered. But we're gonna talk about this
really quickly though, fam. My question is, and I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to be off camera, but I think you need to explain this with the state of the Lebanese government, because I think a lot of people don't understand that. And I've learned just minimal stuff about it, the way it's structured, has to have representation, but that might not represent the polarity of people there right now. I think, in other words, religion isn't the issue, and having a Christians, Muslims, or whatever type of religions represented in a government is not as important as a geopolitical representation where people, they don't give a shit about religion. They just care about the fact that there's an opposing, there's a government a state that lives next to them that wants to take them and take away their sovereignty, which is more important. So with that being understood, is the Lebanese government so weak and fractured right now that Israel will actually have a chance of pulling this off, of taking the majority, if not all of Lebanon, simply because the way the Lebanese government is structured to be chaotic and not really get things done? I'm going to go handle stuff. I'll be back.
Okay. Well, it's not up to the Lebanese government at this point because the Lebanese government doesn't have a way to defend itself. The Lebanese forces are a joke. They don't fight Israel. It's Hezbollah that does all the fighting. It's Hezbollah that people trust to do it. And it's also in Lebanon, people have guns and they take up arms and they do the fighting too. They defend themselves from the violence from the Israeli settlers. So it's not just as easy as saying, oh, if the Lebanese government's weak. The Lebanese government has been weak for a long time. I mean, if you go to Beirut, it's full of operatives. It's full of just Mossad, MI6, CIA. Everybody knows that the Lebanese government, especially in the areas of Beirut, it's completely corrupt. They're mocked constantly, kind of like the Palestinian Authority is mocked. And they're not the go-to source for trustworthiness. Lebanon is also not a country that is fully like integrated. There's a lot of just a lot of chaos and disorganization, which would leave it vulnerable in any other circumstance, except for the fact that Hezbollah has such support and such a defense for the people. And like I said, I want to bring in Marwa to talk more deeply about this, because this is directly like in her area. And I think there's so much that we assume when we look at countries, we assume that all countries are a monolith, right? That everybody believes the same thing. And Hezbollah isn't really a part of the Lebanese government per se. They have influence, but they're not the ones making the diplomatic decisions that you're seeing posted all over media, which is why the Western media can twist that and say, oh, look, the Lebanese government, is a victim of Hezbollah. They want out, and everybody hates Hezbollah. They support Israel, which it's not the case. I mean, the people just they're not being represented by a government that is free. The government is largely captured. It's afraid. It doesn't have the means to protect itself. So Hezbollah has been the leading force, and Hezbollah is a Shia force, but there are other factions that exist in Lebanon. If you go to Beirut, there's an area that's a Christian. There are areas where there's Shia, where there's Sunni. I mean, it's not, and Beirut is extremely cosmopolitan. If you went to Beirut, you would see like the sea, the pine trees, the mountains. It reminds me of like the south of France or Italy. And a lot of people don't understand how kind of cosmopolitan it can be. Just regular shops, regular people. So when you see Beirut being bombed, just know like they're bombing a heavily dense city with a lot of traffic and a lot of people and a lot of things that go on there. And for us, when we think of the Middle East, right, West Asia, we often just assume it's just all desert and like oil over there, and like it's a very, I mean, maybe not us watching this show or our audience here, but the majority of normies, they have an idea of what the Middle East is as just like this broken a set of broken countries that are always at war with each other, the same way that they've been led to believe like Latin American countries are just a bunch of, what Trump called shithole countries that just have nothing to offer. And, they're made to feel like so superior to these countries. But the reality is much different when you visit these people and really talk to people, not just go to a hotel or a resort and stay there and not interact like you're in Cancun or something, where there's more Americans than there are Mexicans. Then when you're actually in these areas, you really realize like the cultural diversity, the religious and ethnic diversity. There's Catholics in Lebanon. There's people that come from other areas, and this is why whenever the United States attacks, the same way, for example, they've been attacking Iran, there are members of the opposition let's say they were against the Ayatollah, that will come out and defend Iran, because they don't want these attacks coming from Washington either, even if they don't agree with the government. So you're going to have that as well, pretty much everywhere, because everybody's watching what's happening right now. They're not dumb, especially from that side of the world. They're looking at what Trump's doing and saying, and they can't escape that reality. And even the normies in Lebanon, the people that don't necessarily belong to Hezbollah, that don't necessarily belong to anybody, they have this mentality of like this dark humor where they're not afraid to die, where they're not going to leave their land. This is my land. I'm going to stay here. Many times I've asked, friends there, like, are you going to go? Are you going to leave? They won't leave. It doesn't matter. Like, if we had bombs dropping off on us in the United States, we would all like be at the airport in 5 seconds. I mean, this is just how we are. We're not just going to stay there right? But this belief system that extends throughout the whole region is entirely different, and I think foreign to us, but also scary, because how can we just stay there? Yeah, I understand it's our home, but if we're getting bombed, most Americans are like, we're getting the hell out of here. We're gonna go. And they're not like that. Even the normies, they're like, no, this is our home. We're gonna stay here. We're gonna, whatever's gonna happen, we're gonna fight it out, and we're gonna get through it. Fam.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're talking about Lebanon, it's
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, that the article I wrote, once again, you don't have to be a genius of the region to understand and see the parallels. That was almost the same thing the Israeli government said to the Palestinians back in the days. Their Nakba, when they removed them. And a lot of the people left Palestine thinking that they were able to go back once everything was okay, and they never got a chance to go back. So why would the people of Lebanon listen to the same exact rhetoric that was spoke from the people of Gaza and people, before they were put into Gaza in Palestine? Years before, so I mean, I it's just amazing to me that they can be upfront and open about it and still talk about this shit like that. Did you get to some of the energy crises? Are we?
No, we're at Iraq. Let's
All right, so
go.
we're gonna get there.
Take it
All right,
away.
let's look, fam. If we would have been able to talk about this on Monday, right? We would have probably been ahead of the curve. But yesterday, everybody caught on. Let's start with the first article, because a couple weeks ago we heard about this, right? With the Iraqi plane. Jayme, where you at? Is he not there? Right, I'll do it myself. Got it myself. Jayme ain't gonna participate, then I'll do it myself. So this is it right here. Iraqi pro-Iranian militias deny the U.S. version and claim the downing of their tanker plan with 4 dead. And we heard about this last week, fam, right? This was a air tanker that refueled planes in the middle of the air, right? And that's something we have to consider right now, because as Tehran expels a lot of the American forces from these bases, it would be harder for the Americans to attack. Where are they going to attack from? Where are they going to take off from? Obviously, Israel and parts of Lebanon is what they're hoping to capture right now, where they can take off and continue their operations from their bombers rather than missiles sent from the distance or sent from the ocean. It's really hard to stop the bombers. Those are the most effective and accurate. But now over Iraq, right, which was supposedly controlled territory, the Iraqi pro-Iranian militia, and I don't know if it's necessarily a pro-Iranian militia, but let's talk about it, because you know as well as I do, fam, and it's not going to take a genius to figure out that there's a revolution, there's an uprising in Iraq ready to fucking happen, and more evidence of that came through yesterday. The Iraqi factions allied with Iran, grouped under the so-called Islamic Resistance of Iraq, have intensified their attacks in recent days against bases in the northern part of the country where troops are deployed amid a resurgence of U.S. airstrikes against their barracks. These episodes of escalating violence confirm that Iraq has become yet another battleground in the regional war initiated by the U.S. and Israel. The assaults by the Iranian allied formations, which resulted in the death of a French soldier on Thursday, coincided with the incident involving the U.S. K-135 tanker airplane that crashed in Iraqi territory. And I want to remember, fam, that the U.S. said, oh, my God, here's the U.S. Central Command admitted to the death of 4 crew members, but hastened to state that the loss of the aircraft was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. So right away, fam, they said that this is not from, why is that still up there? Oh, did you take it? Oh, you have it. Jayme had it up. My bad. So, yeah, I mean, this is something the Americans said it was an accident. It didn't happen. It was perfect weather. But now these the Iraqi resistance, fam, whether they are Shia, and I think a lot of people have to understand there are a lot of Shia. There were more Shia in Iraq than there were Sunni. Even though Saddam Hussein was Sunni, they were predominantly Shia, and they had a relationship. People would go back and forth between Iran and Iraq. And once again, I think it's more about nationalism, being an Iraqi saying, I don't give a shit. I'm a Sunni. I'm a Jew. I'm a Christian. I'm whatever. I want the fucking U.S. out. And they have a resistance that's been brewing in Iraq for quite some time, fam. And this was the start of it when we heard about this. It became in the public eye very shortly. And then yesterday we have some breaking news that happened. But your initial thoughts when you hear and you see this right away, fam?
Well, yeah, I mean, just so much has happened since then with Iraq. And again, there months ago, I think we mentioned here on the show that the Israeli plan was to, the U.S. Israeli plan was to attack forces in Iraq because Iraq has a huge resistance faction. And remember, there are U.S. military bases in Iraq. And when you go there, there's the green zone and then there's the other zone. And, it's different. That's the area where the U.S. military bases are. And the resistance forces from Iraq were the ones being attacked by the United States. And they said that they would respond to these attacks by the United States and Israel. So now they've effectively entered the war because of this. And I think a lot of people are saying, wow, this takes it much bigger. Well, it does, but it's still, in a way, it is aligned with Iran, right? They would actually, it's not confusing if there's a difference between the Iraqi forces that are kind of complacent the same way in Lebanon to the United States, and then the resistance factions that are saying we need to take up arms, we need to defend ourselves from these attacks. So yeah.
I have another clip over here, Jayme, another article really quickly, and the date's kind of interesting because it's about 20 days ago. But the Iraqi resistance here is claiming more troops killed than the Americans reported total in these American bases. And they have been showing videos out there right now of drones hitting tanks or helicopters or whatnot. So there has been a resistance brewing even more than before. And then the next one from Middle East Observer, when the United States now, was requesting a ceasefire, fam. The U.S. requested a ceasefire in Iraq. And that's an official spokesman said from the Guardians of the Blood Brigades. The Americans and NATO requested a 24-hour ceasefire from the Iraqi resistant factions from the Iraqi government in order to complete a withdrawal of their forces from the Victoria base in Baghdad to Turkey. And this is going back like 2 days ago, fam, 3 days ago. The majority of the Iraqi resistant factions that received the government's request agreed to the truth on the condition that the Hassad, the Popular Mobilization Forces, positions are not targeted from Holy Samara to Holy Karbala. And in return, and if they return, we shall return, and we will make hell, a resting place for the disbelievers. And this is what they're talking about, fam. So they asked for a 24-hour ceasefire. This is the American side asking for that. And just yesterday, we have more. This is from the Post. The Iraq officially announces its entry into the war against the United States and Israel. We have decided to respond and defend ourselves against the attacks targeting our official Popular Mobilization Forces. There was an attack. There were troops killed, and they're like, screw you. We're in this now. Gloves are off. Here's Iraq, and they're resistant, pushing back, and we knew this would happen. And if you didn't suspect this from what we did from Operation Desert Steel or Desert Storm and whatnot, then you're completely just oblivious to what's going on in this fucking region. We remind you that Israel and the United States are launching airstrikes and attacks on Popular Mobilization Forces headquarters and have killed many of its commanders loyal to Iran, according to their statements. Fam, they are officially in the war.
Fam, they are. And you're frozen in a very funny way. So that's why I was laughing.
We'll read the next
Jayme.
post. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
You read the next post since I'm frozen.
Okay, so this one says, Iraq, Baghdad clears PMF to defend itself after deadly strike on militia headquarters. So again, this is just pretty much saying that Iraq is going to hit back the PMU. Iraq's National Security Council has authorized the PMF to respond to U.S. attacks under the right to self-defense. This is according to Mer News. Like we said before, the decision follows airstrikes on PMF command headquarters. So again, it's not everybody in Iraq. It's a specific front, the Popular Mobilization Forces, and they're going to respond. And they have been building a resistance there to counter the, Western aligned forces, which was purposely released, by the way, by Israel, the same way the Syrian al-Jolani forces have been released. And there are forces still in Syria that are resistance forces that are regrouping and fighting on Iran's side. So there's a lot going on in this throughout the region. It's not just Tehran and Iran. It's even not just Lebanon. Now you have Iraq, right? And I think if you ask anybody in the United States this, they're going to be like, "What? I thought Iran was Iraq." So, but it's just like a broad glimpse as to what's going on. Fam, anything else you want to say on this one?
Well, you know what they say in Iraq: to the streets. Jayme, come on.
There's a tweet.
Get the next tweet, Jayme, to the streets. Play the video.
What's
Press TV volume.
ما يشاء الله في المهد يشاء والوريد المنتجب لك.
You can see the size of it. That's the streets of Baghdad, fam. They're ready. Like you said, that resistance has been brewing for quite some time. And it's also interesting to figure out or to think about what the leadership in Iraq, what's going to come of Iraq once the American forces are removed. Remember, we've been occupying, not have bases in Iraq. We've been occupying Iraq since we went in. And now they're resisting and they're trying to push the forces out. And Iraq is right next to Iran. So you know that the Iranians were funneling and helping out that revolution over there too, especially with the Shia population, to push the Americans out. That was probably one of the things that was so in their plans, right? Understanding that Iraq is next to us. We need to get rid of all those American bases there too as well. But it kind of went quietly under the rug, and a lot of people weren't talking about it. Now we're seeing it left and right as Iraq is now saying, we're declaring war on Israel and America. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going on. There it is, Iraq right next to Iran. So it's like, the Iranians weren't going to let the American bases stay there too as well. I suspect that a ceasefire will happen in the region where only Jordan, Lebanon, and Israel will have American presence. Everywhere else, in my personal opinion, they'll be gone. Maybe Syria, we got to see, is up for grabs. But they ain't going to let them stay in Iraq. That ain't happening. The Gulf states, no way. Kuwait, I saw people trying to leave Kuwait the other day because they know something's coming too as well. So they're not going to let the leadership stay there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in this region, fam. But I think Iraq has not been talked about enough. And now we see this uprising in Iraq happening. And Americans should understand the depth of this that's going on. This is big. This is a regional situation. So please.
Yeah. I want to add this just from Press TV. This is a better article, I think, if you want to learn what's going on. This is just more of the retaliation that the popular mobilization units, that's why I call them units instead of forces. But yeah, they said they're going to respond to these attacks as we talked earlier. And they said that they warned that all energy facilities in the region are within reach of our missiles. The Iraqi resistance said this to the United States, and they're pissed off. They're like, why you killing our people? You're attacking us. They are also trying to go to the UN Security Council to be heard on this matter. So yeah, there's just going to be more of that. They're clearly siding with Iran, and that's the smart thing to do right now because Iran is again in the region, and Iran did make a call out to the people of the region saying, they're going to come after you next. This is it. Like, this is the fight. And here's the article over here. I'm putting it in the chat for all of you to see. So yeah. That's it, fams, for that section.
So we should go through the last section because it's a small section, but it is
Yeah.
just talking about really crises that have appeared. Jayme, if you want to show our Give, Send, Go, guys, if you want to help on out, thank you for bearing with me today on the show. I know fam held it down as the alarm was going off in this damn building and craziness was happening. But please, if you can help on out, make sure you refresh that, Jayme. See if we can get some more shares, guys. We got 45 gives, 30 shares. Let's try to get it on up. We're almost near 2,200, so we want to break 2,200. We need at least $3 more donated to help us out for the Give, Send, Go. GiveSendGo.com/election integrity matters. Help us on out. We get our boots on the ground and got some stuff going on. So now I want to really talk briefly and we'll get on out of here. I want to remind everybody I have my WBAI show today. It's on 99.5 WBAI.org. You can go to listen to the show. You can call in 212-209-2877, 212-209-2877, and call in and talk about what's going on. We'll continue a lot of the conversation that we've had here today over there because a lot of the audience is very educated on what's going on and wants to always talk about what Donald Trump is doing. So we will talk about it. But we said there's going to be crises happening all over the place right now, right? A lot of the energy infrastructure, a lot of the natural gas, the oil comes out of this region. And with the Strait of Hormuz shutting down, it's going to be really bad. But not only that, bombing other locations. So let's talk about the energy crisis that have emerged right out of the gate. First one, Jayme. Qatar, right? Showing up. Oh, Philippines. Excuse me. The Philippines declare a state of national emergency amid energy disruptions. Let's scroll it up because they get a lot of their stuff imported. Jayme, show up and I'll make it nice and big. There we are. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. declared a state of national emergency, of energy emergency, warning of imminent danger to the country's energy supplies. The measure, set to last 1 year, aims to address disruptions caused by the conflict in the Middle East and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Officials said the crisis has disrupted supply chains and driven up oil prices, posing a threat to the country's energy security. So right off the bat, outside the region, we are going to see countries starting to cry. The government is expected to implement measures to stabilize fuel availability and protect the economy. Fam, you were talking about some of these things in your tweet. We're talking about Agenda 2030 and the Great Reset, and that is what this is all about at the end of the day. Your thoughts, fam?
Yeah, I'll get into it once you finish up here because it kind of wraps everything together.
So the last one I want to talk about is in Qatar, and this is also from Middle East Eye. Qatar's national gas company declares force majeure on some of its long-term LNG supply contracts, liquid natural gas supply contracts. And it says Qatar's national gas company has declared force majeure on a number of its contracts, including with LNG, liquid natural gas, customers in Italy, Belgium, South Korea, and China likely to be affected. Qatar Energy said the decision had come following Iran's attacks on a Ras Laffan production facility last week. That was the thing that was hit after South Pars was hit. And I just want to put down what I put over here. Force majeure is a legal term referring to the unexpected and uncontrollable events that prevent parties from fulfilling their contractual obligations. Did you put that up, Jayme? And from the doc, let people see what that means. Show the doc. Put it up.
Takes a second.
There it is. Make it big. There we go. Jayme, see, go. There we go. There it is. Force majeure. They can't fulfill their contracts, fam. Their biggest plant was set on fire and is no longer going to be able to fulfill their contracts. Please, fam, take it away.
Well, a lot of people are going off and talking about, what's really going on here, because some people say this is like controlled demolition, that the United States wants to purposely do this. I don't know if I would go as far to say that it is controlled demolition. I think they don't care about things falling apart at home or abroad because they're making money. And Russia's making money. A lot of people in the oil industry right now are making money. So I think that's led people to believe like maybe there's something going on here that's bigger. Well, I brought up this whole thing that I've seen a few people talk about this latest from the the International Energy Agency, but what I want to talk about here is the series of events surrounding this war with Iran, that it's a very real war.
Yeah.
I want to start off by saying it's not theater. Iran isn't cosplaying or pretending to, bomb people and kill people for that's not how they are. Maybe if your perspective is that everything is theater, I understand that perspective, because the West tends to do that. They tend to lie, they tend to cheat, to rig, to create AI, like Israel, the United States, a lot of these governments, they do this. Yes, it's true. They manipulate things. I'm not saying Iran has never done anything wrong, but I am saying, like, in general, the Western governments have definitely lied, manipulated, controlled a lot of things. And so I understand where the perspective of everything is theater, everything is controlled, everything is, just fake comes from. But you can't put that perspective that comes from the United States on Iran, because that's not how they operate. And you need to understand how Iran and other powers operate. And once you do that, then you will see that they wouldn't, like, theatrically sacrifice their people, because this is a serious thing to them. This is a real existential threat to themselves and the entire region, right? So going off of that and understanding that this is a real war, that doesn't mean that it's not being used and manipulated by very powerful people trying to push things through while this is going on, as using the excuse of war that will also benefit them to try to bring about changes that are going to take away our civil liberties in the United States and in the rest of the world. So if we can put this tweet up. No, that's not the one.
Take the banner down too, Jayme.
It's this one. 1 second. I'll try to. This one. Yeah. Okay. So I said a series of events no one is talking about related to Iran versus the Epstein Empire. So Palantir is already embedded inside the Pentagon structure. I'm sure you guys heard about the battle between, Anthropic and Palantir, and we've talked about that before. The Israeli spyware data mining tech is the main AI being used for military intel abroad and at home via ICE. So abroad and at home via ICE. This tech is already in place throughout Europe. So in Europe, they already have a lot of this digital surveillance tech in place, especially in the UK. Meanwhile, if you guys have seen all the TSA videos, whether it's Louisiana, Atlanta, New Orleans, Atlanta, Texas, now they're shutting down airports left and right because there's no TSA employees, because the TSA isn't being funded. And a lot of the employees have called out sick, quit, left. So all this is creating chaos and long lines, which is like delaying flights, canceling flights, and all of that, right? So what did Elon Musk do the other day? He said, "Oh, I can pay TSA." So you have somebody like Elon Musk, who's a private, billionaire technocrat. If he starts funding operations that were funded by the government, people think like, "Oh, big government." No, corporate merger with government, which is extremely dangerous. And I recall the Silicon Valley entering the State Department when everybody was going off about, "Oh, this is great. The NGOs are gone. Elon Musk is going to come in, but the NGOs are gone, guys. Look, they're cleaning up. The Trump administration is cleaning up the NGOs." Well, no, what ended up happening is that Silicon Valley got access to pretty much do whatever they wanted with this money, and everything became more centralized to the government, but really Silicon Valley technocrats, and they never left. And this was done on purpose. If you recall, people were sold this idea that there was no more secretive covert stuff, but it was really just centralizing the transfer of power to Silicon Valley. Can you scroll up, Jayme? So the transfer of power from the government to the private sector is needed to keep like a fascist state, to keep control, because that's how our government is run, right? We don't longer have, and Dennis Kucinich said it himself, we no longer have a government by the people for the people. This is exactly what we were talking about with Dennis Kucinich. So now this is just going to be justified on paper, because imagine whether it's Elon Musk or somebody else takes over privatizing the TSA, who do they work for? If they're not the government, they technically don't work for you. They work for these technocrats. So that takes away any agency you have when you go to the airport by something that shouldn't have existed anyway, and that only came about through like 9/11, right? And they were only pushed there because of that. So on March 20th, in addition to everything I just mentioned, there was the International Energy Agency that listed the actions that governments, businesses, and households could take to alleviate the economic impacts on consumers from the disruptions to oil markets stemming from the war in Iran. So this is what Pasta just shared, the energy crisis that's brewing and getting worse and worse, $6 at the pump in California, etc. So among these measures to restrict movements, there was a list of them. They were suggesting, and this isn't just the United States, this is literally the entire world, right? Like alternate private car access to roads in large cities on different days. That could be just depending on your license plate, odd or even numbers, rationing LPG for cooking, and encouraging remote work and even school closures. So all of these is to just restrict the travel of people. So they're saying this is just the most safest and effective way to basically control the energy crisis. So you need to do your part, Pasta. You need to do your part, Jayme, and actually contribute to society by limiting your travel, by limiting the amount of gas you spend, how much you drive, how much electricity and power you're using at your home. You need to limit, but who has the unlimited authority? Of course, the predator class. And what this says to me is basically that the fallout of the Epstein Empire's decisions is going to be felt by all of you, the regular person, everyday, average American, average person who's going to get their civil liberties completely taken away, trampled on, your movements restricted. And how perfect is this at a time when opposition to what Donald Trump and the entire US government is doing is at an all-time high, when approval ratings are at an all-time low and everybody's seeing through Trump's eyes. So this is really why, because we're seeing that people are not buying this like they bought the war in Iraq. We're seeing that people are questioning what's going on. And now that you question, if you dare go outside and start protesting this, what are you going to be met with? You're going to be met with ICE. You're going to be met with ICE is already, by the way, permanently put at the airports. And so what are going to happen is fear mongering of the people through these false flag attempts. We've already seen so many attempts. We're seeing attempts to confuse people. This is a psychological warfare going on online where they're all lying using AI videos. And of course, this is a new form of lockdown because you're not going to be able to move as freely. And people are already freaking out. And people are already wondering, like, what exactly is going to happen? Because our speech and our civil liberties were already targeted. We already have Palantir, ICE, we have AI, all of these mechanisms that were put for the illegals, for the illegal immigrants, have already in place. All they have to do is just switch the target from the illegal immigrant to you. And this is, and as you don't respect, for example, you don't want to abide, you don't want to comply to these new measures of restriction for the energy crisis that they are causing purposely by continuing this war in Iran. And if you don't comply, what's going to happen? Oh, well, you could be literally imprisoned. You could be literally fined. You could have feds at your doorstep, as is already happening to a lot of people, because there's other legislation that wants to attack journalists and attack anybody that's covering this from a different perspective. So again, this is going right along. We are 4 years away from Agenda 2030. And I'm telling everybody this again. I really, truly hope Iran wins this war, because if they do not win this war, if we see Israel, the United States of Epstein, win this war in any way, shape, or form, what's happening is this, like, on steroids. And Gaza, of course, is the place where they're starting this example of this digital, technocratic, feudal state where it's cashless. It's going to be controlled by how much you behave. And Iran is actually not one of the only entities not on board with that. They have decided to pivot away from that. And the only people that you would think that are fighting that are actually resistance forces, because you have China and Russia are going right along with Agenda 2030. There are right now in Russia, and we've been here a while, so I'm not going to talk about it, but there's there are farmers that had their cattle killed, and this is, you can Google this, you can verify this, had their cattle killed in Novosibirsk, Siberia, and they were told that it was because there was an infection, but there was never any blood sampling, there was never anything. The farmers just had their cattle killed, and they're all freaking out right now. They've been going on social media talking about this stuff. And this has
been going around, by the way, on other countries for years right now. Like they've been doing this. Bird flu shit comes along, and they have to kill up cattle. And what's that?
But Russia, the area where people thought was going to be like, no, we're not going along with you know, the Klaus Schwab, we're not going along with all this stuff. Well, they're going along with it. We don't know what China's doing, but we know China has embraced AI to the max. So
By the way, did we have a clip about AI? Does it have a conscience? Was that removed from the doc?
No, it's there. It's there. It's the next one.
Oh, okay, cool. Because you had talked about what they were using in Gaza, and we've been saying for quite some time they're testing out weapons. Jayme, what's the next one with the AI? Is it the next clip? Are you done with that clip right there, fam, that he had up? All right, yeah. So this is Jason Bassler, I believe. Go ahead, fam. Jayme. Palantir AI helped direct, prioritize, and strike 1,000 targets in Iran in the first 24 hours. That same day, the 175 children were killed when a girls' school was hit by a U.S. Tomahawk cruise missiles. There was 2 of them. The future of the war is now outsourcing life and death decisions to algorithms built by the defense contractors. That should terrify you. And this is something we talked about from the jump, fam. I was talking about it, and I asked Karen Kwiatkowski, does the AI have a conscience? Is that why they're using AI? Is this the next step towards the Great Reset and the Fourth Industrial Revolution? About, when we had said that, okay, we're doing drone warfare because we can separate the motion from the guy who's actually pushing the button, because he's not seeing his enemy face to face. But those people even had a conscience, because later on they went home and found out what they had done. They pressed the button to kill a bunch of schoolgirls, whatever the case may be. The next step was AI, to remove that consciousness from what's going on. I always believed that was a big part of it. It wasn't just about seek and destroy, but you put into these algorithms, what's the best way, the most effective way to bring our enemies to the knees? We'll bomb a school full of a lot of their children, where the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps had their children, and bomb that school. Do that to your enemy. So that is here. That is happening right now. And a lot of these things, there have been people been talking about certain stuff like this eventually happening, and here it comes nowadays. It's on our doorstep. The Great Reset is here. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is here. This is a step to what you've been talking about on the show for the last several months, where it's not about nation states, it's about individuals right now, right? It's the oligarchs versus the rest of us. And that's what we have going on right now. And this is a move to get us into that spot. This war is also going to shut down all your small farmers around the globe. They don't have energy source. They don't have fertilizer. They're going to be the first to go. And the big farms are the ones who are going to have a lot of control of the food supply. But our good friend Gloria Guillot says the Americans won't respond until their food supply is cut off or is shortened. And we're far away from that, because it's still a gluttonous country. I can still go to happy hour wherever I want, fam. I have a choice of what fish carpaccio I can get. So right now, we're not living that reality. But until we live that reality, I don't think you'll see Americans wake up, because it's pretty much they're consumed and they're zombie-like at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I think the poorest people are probably not living that reality right now in the United States, where they can't afford to go to happy hours, they can't afford to go anywhere, and they're the ones that might be waking up if they can afford a breath between their 3 or 4 jobs. And having 3 or 4 jobs is being glorified, by the way, in media and commercials in the United States. And it's not normal. You should have 1 job and that's it. But that's a reality.
Yeah. And I think Friday, as we have Elizabeth Kucinich on, we can talk about Maha, right? Like that was a lot of the people from Maha were not just about the medical freedom movement. They were also about the anti-censorship and surveillance state movement. And a lot of their voices have been suppressed now, and only the true Trump loyalists are in there now, and they're the ones with the microphones, and these people have been silenced. And I know a lot of people in the Maha movement are disgusted by the way that pretty much that whole movement's been shelved, because that movement wasn't just about medical freedom and talking about what's going on with the vaccine and everything that took place. That was also about pushing back against the censorship that was there. And now it's completely being censored, controlled, and only the voices of the pro-Trump base, right? Like the Laura Loomers and the whatever his name is, Idiot Engelman and the Benny Johnsons, and oh my God, look what Trump is doing. Oh, now they have the microphone. And Twitter and Elon Musk are a part of that, of pushing that censorship, because they're lifting up certain voices and other voices are being completely silenced and shut out. That's what they've been able to accomplish with this whole movement and getting you people to go along. That's why there was a lot of criticism going to people who should have known better not to push and help get this guy in fucking office, right? And too many people of them. And you see Rogan out there now complaining about it left and right. Bro, you helped get him elected because you didn't listen to the right people. So that's what we have on our doorstep right now, fam. The fourth industrial revolution. And a lot of people in the citizenry, right? Just going along with stuff that, they're playing team sports. They're going to go along with Trump no matter what. They're getting duped into the security state on spying powers against them. They're the ones who are going on the grid now. And it's just, it's quite amazing that we've seen this coming in slow motion. And now it's here, fam.
Yep.
All
Yeah,
right.
I think people need to look more at these connections. The last thing I had put is just a quick update on Russia-Ukraine negotiations. And this is why people are kind of really getting fed up with how the Kremlin is acting and what they're doing. So Ushakov on the negotiations between the U.S. and Ukraine, our American colleagues have informed us in great detail about the course of the bilateral negotiations that they had in Florida last Saturday with the Ukrainian delegation. In other words, they held negotiations. We were thoroughly informed about the results, and we know where we are now and where they are. Now, there are reports from the American side that some kind of agreement will be reached between Russia and Ukraine. Do we know anything about this? He says, well, we don't know anything about it because no one, in my opinion, prepared the text of the agreement. At least no one has coordinated it with us. No one has discussed it. The United States is satisfied with Russia's war in Ukraine. Russia is busy with this and does not interfere in the war with Iran. Judging by the course of the negotiations, which are neither going on or not, the United States is simply giving Russia time and opportunity to resolve all its issues in Ukraine. But as I see it now, Russia still insists on being good and following the rules. The most interesting thing is that no one has asked Russia for this and no one needs it at all. So the thing is, Russia has an opportunity to go after Ukraine and this war, and it seems like Putin is holding back and people don't understand it. But I very well understand it because they're trying to make a deal with Ukraine and they're not getting involved in Iran. No matter how many posts we hear about Russia helping Iran, that's not happening. They've told you many, many times and people still don't believe them. They don't lie about this stuff. Like, they just omit. So like they're not getting involved because they don't want to get involved in something that could potentially lead to Iran hurting Israel, because millions of Russians live there and because they have a connection with Israel. There's Israeli oligarchs, Russian Jews in Russia. Some of them have made a lot of money in recent years. They're growing in influence, and that's a reality that people don't want to talk about and don't want to address. But there's growing resentment from other aspects in Russia against that, and growing disapproval of Putin and of the internet stuff that I talked about the other day, and of the added farming stuff. Is not a good position for Russia to be in. And you have Stephen Witkoff and Jared Kushner who are leading the talks for Russia, Ukraine, the same ones that are in the Middle East talking about this stuff. So you're not going to tell me there's not a connection there. There obviously is a connection. We've been talking about it for a long time. And so I think you're going to see some of this play out as businesses return. You're seeing like Russia is the Kremlin is pushing for a deal, whereas Lavrov and others are not so keen on this deal. So more on that next time.
Guys, that's it for today's show. We want to thank you for coming on in. If you want to help out out, you can always go to our Give, Send, Go and get in there and give a like, give a share. If you can't donate, just share it on up. Did you hit the refresh, Jayme? Do we have any more shares? Let's see. We had 30 shares when we talked about this a couple while ago. 30 shares still, guys. Come on, help us out. We need $3 more to get to the $2,200 mark. We're going to get you ahead of the curve. We're going to help you win Thanksgiving this year when you listen to us, because we're going to give you the right information. So if you want to win Thanksgiving, hit us on up, give us a share. Whatever you can do to help, we do appreciate it. I want to thank Jayme CheeseSlice on the ones and twos, fam, for holding it down while the alarm was going off. I'm Craig Pasta Jardula. This is the Truth Wire. We're going to have Elizabeth Kucinich on Friday. That's Dennis Kucinich's wife. I got to meet her in person at the Rage Against the War Machine, the first one, and we had a nice, lengthy conversation. She's amazing. She was an advocate or an activist, I should say, for, I don't know what you call it nowadays, fam, climate control, global warming. But I think we need to have a sensible conversation about what's going on, because a lot of people, they weren't down for it, because number one, they never talked about geoengineering when it came to climate control. That was always left on out, and we know that happened, and that has to have a serious effect. If a government's trying to control the weather, it's only going to fuck things up. So that has to be factored into play. But the solution seemed on what you had talked about on Agenda 2030. It's the little guy that has to adjust their way of living. What really causes the pollution of the planet that we need to look at, and how do we pick up that conversation? Because I'm against fracking, right? Like, because it messes up with our water, and we shouldn't allow that. So we can have a conversation about that. Plus the Maha movement too, as well, where they have been sidelined, when they have been halted. Anybody in that movement right now has to be coming forth and saying this is ridiculous. We got completely the wool pulled over our eyes. For us to support this movement was just ridiculous. We now see what Donald Trump is all about, and we need to push back against that. I'm going to be on my WBAI show in about an hour. You can go to WBAI.org. That's WBAI.org. Go check it on out, and you can call in if you want, 212-209-2877, and get on the New York airways. It's a big audience. It's a big crowd. It's a big signal. So please join on in. But we'll be back Friday as well. Fam, you got anything else going on that we need to tell the people about? Anything with Vanessa Beeley? I got her Substack talking about a town in southern Lebanon, right? And the town is called, tell me if I say this right, Sohmor, Sohmor, and it's a legacy of persecution and resistance now under sustained Zionist bombardment. I think it's really awesome when you talk to Vanessa, because you really get a sign of what's like from the everyday people in these towns and those who are under attack. But do you have anything else to talk about with her and you and her? Do you have anything out with the two of you guys talking about this stuff?
Yeah, we'll get to it this week. Me and her, and I posted a few new things on Substack. Just an article on our interview with Dennis Kucinich. And yeah, there's more to come from me. Keep watching that, and we'll see you Friday.
Got a lot of good, exciting stuff, guys. Thanks for helping us out. Remember, our Give, Send, Go is there all the ways to help independent media down below. I'm Pasta Jardula for Fiorella Isabel, Jayme CheeseSlice on the ones and two, and all our lovely producers in the chat helping out, and the supporters who show up on a regular basis. Truth Wire time is ending. Truth out. We'll see you on Friday.